Hey everyone, today we're having a first look at the Kick 3, and I know it's out for some time. Had some producer friends tell me, you gotta check it out, it's so good, it has this and that, such and such, which is, usually the case when it's a new version. And there's a reason I switched off from Kick 2 into a different plugin for my kick drum needs. And that was the Kickdrum by Audia, this one. And this one, the second version, already in beta now, is really good. Has some of the features that we can see in Kick 2 as well. Talk to you about it in the rest of this video. So there's a lot of new things in Kick 3, compared to Kick 2. One of the really accentuated ones was also like the import function, where it can analyze a kick drum, you give it and recreate it, with its engine, which is a really good thing. I really like that, meaning that I can basically steal off somebody else's kick drum from a song that I like and just tune it a tiny bit to my song, which is something I usually need. You usually need to change it just a tiny bit. What it does have is what you had before. Now you can just add more layers. So the layers you add don't need to be just a click layers, which is the case for before. You had like one sub layer and 3 click layers. Now you have 5 layers that can be whatever. You have that import function, of course. You have many new effects, delay, reverb, and compressors, multi-effects, and whatnot. And we have the trigger function, which is something I really like. So you can trigger the Kick 3 to play with a different audio coming from, let's say, the kick drum you were trying to replace, which is really nice. And honestly, in Ableton, that's just a couple of clicks away. Doing that like by hand, just exchanging a kick drum that already exists, turning that into MIDI, and then using a different kick drum. But this definitely makes it, I think, faster and easier to use this kind of mechanism. That's really nice. So I really do like it, but there is a reason I switched to kick drum from Audia, and that was, and let me try to, like, we are now in Kick 3, we are in the init state, so I'm going to push everything to 20 Hertz. Maybe in the amp we can just push this all the way up, so we just have a sine wave playing. So the reason was this, in Kick 2 as well, and in Kick 3 as I see it, it continued. Let's say I'm trying to make a change that is dependent on the position in the song. So this is 1/16th of a beat based on my BPM. So I'm trying to make a pitch change right here, and I do, and that's really nice. I can see exactly where it's happening in the musical terms. But if you see the graph underneath representing that kick drum, that pitch change happened all the way here. So somehow this envelope representation is kind of logarithmic to allow you to maybe impart more details into this beginning. A lot more higher frequencies happen, so you need like more space to handle it. And I do understand that if there was no zoom in, so I can zoom in, so I don't need to have this envelope be represented any differently. If you see it, it's either the envelope not represented properly or it's the graph. Whatever the case is, they're not coinciding with one another. It's really stupid. So if I zoom in here to do something, precise, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing something else, some other part of the frequency spectrum, and that change happened all the way in the front or whatever. It's not coinciding. So if you open Kickdrum by Audia, do the same thing, pull everything down, all the way down. Okay, that's 18.89 Hertz. So if I do the same thing, you see that change is happening exactly where the line is. So the graph coincides with the envelope, making it much more easier to work. Now, in this Kickdrum Audia, I'm not seeing the musical division, but I guess that's something that, is really easy to be added there by the developer. So I guess there is advantages and disadvantages to both of them. I just preferred this one. It was really easy for me to get a nice result in this, Kickdrum beta, and you can now add different saturations and samples and whatnot, meaning clicks, I think as many as you want. And you can lock the phase to wherever you want to. Now this new Kickdrum 3 has the same functionality, so you can lock phase on a specific node or any node. So I can add another node and lock the phase here as well. So both of these are going to have a phase lock. Let me just pull this down. So you see, whenever I'm moving this, it's moving the phase with it. And I can see that happening, of course. I can see that it's moving the phase with it, but it would be so much easier if that phase was like right here, if that graph was coinciding with this node. So seeing that what you're doing would be so much easier. And this one is moving the phase as well. Yeah, you can see the phase right here moving with it. As I said, sadly, it's not really graphically represented as I think it should be to my preference. Let's say to my preference, I really prefer it to be the way it's represented in the Kickdrum beta. And I have to check out that other one from him, that Kickdrum generator from him, to see to see what that one looks like and how easy it is to work with. Basically, what's really important is how fast can you get a good result? For me, at least, how fast can I get a good kick drum going and just, continue working? Because honestly, I don't want to be spending hours and just like meddling with trying to get a perfect kick drum. I just want a kick drum that's going to work with the song. That's it. Just make it sound great. Done. Another thing is that, yeah, we have all of these effects and we have this EQ. If I apply any of that EQ, let's say right here, I'm just going to make a sweep. So in the main, I'm going to get rid of these nodes. I'm just going to make a sweep like this. Okay, so we have a sweep from, let's say, I don't know, 1000 hertz back down to 20 hertz. If I go to the EQ and you see that I just have something like a change at like, let's say 200 hertz, something like that. I have a dip. Let me just narrow that dip down. Okay, beautiful. I have a dip. So if I go to the main screen right here and I see that kick drum, if I disable the EQ, there's no change. I don't see any change happening because that EQ is just an effect that happens, after, as if you added like an EQ onto your kick drum after the fact. So if you do that, this EQ is going to move the phases that you just locked in before. So if that phase locking is anything important to you, I would say that, yeah, it's doing something with an EQ right after, and of course, not even seeing it, that's going to mess with the phases that you just locked and try to, do whatever, be precise, scientific about it. I don't know, people chase those phases that coincide with the bass in a certain way as if that is the groove of the song. And I'm telling you, it's not. I think I'm right, and that's not the groove. Yeah, it does affect how that kick and bass add to each other, if they are adding to the peaks or not. They're being in anti-phase to each other. Yeah, it affects that, but it doesn't affect the groove. That's not what makes the groove, especially with the kind of rolling basses that I deal with. There's a completely different factor there. Okay, but I'm getting a little bit off point. I'm rambling. So this being lockable is great. It's amazing. And you can lock another node. That's great. Adding an EQ on top of that, which is actually going to change that, and it's not going to be displayed, and you don't see it, as if anything wouldn't, any of this is going to change the phase. Any kind of EQ that, has some phase movement, it's going to change the phase of your kick drum. That's okay. It's just you don't see it here. And if you open the kick drum in Audia, that EQ is applied as an algorithm thing, and you can see it applying the change. And it's not applied after the fact. It's applied while synthesizing it. So while synthesizing the kick drum, the EQ is being applied. There is no phase change happening. This is applied into the algorithm that generates it, into the synthesis, moment. So right when it's being synthesized, this EQ curve is being calculated into it. And as you can see, where we have the sweep, it's just being, introduced, and there is no phase movement, no phase change after the fact. So the phase, just being one, is always locked to the way you lock it and where you want it locked, at the beginning, at the ending, a cycle before, half a cycle before, whatever you want to do. So I really appreciate that. Those are the two things that I still find better in the kick drum for my workflow, at least. I'm not sure. I have to do some real work and, using this kick drum in a 5-minute or a 10-minute video just to see how it works. is not something I'm keen to do. Like, I really want to, get in there and see how many things I can, utilize to see how good it is. I think that for the next one, I'm going to check out the kick drum generator from the him. I'm really curious to see what also that workflow is going to be like. Yeah, and by the way, I have a course online at mixingacademy.com, which is completely free thanks to 11.org. So go there, check it out, see if there's anything you can learn. Bye.